Every moment that I'm dreaming is dangerous. Buried deep inside is what I can't comprehend. Seeing past what is so obvious, not so obvious.
Growing pains, switching lanes comes with blind spots. For too long, I clocked out and thought that time stopped. You see the seconds make up minutes and minutes make up the hours. Smart decisions make the man, that's what I gotta
in
watch.
Today's culture, right? IG, social media, like all the things, like there's a huge topic, right, that everyone is on in different ways. Protect your peace. Protect your peace. And you find it in, and these are just topics that came up. I mean, there's a big thing with Dwayne Wade and Gab, right? They were, protecting their son. They're protecting his safety, his peace, right? So he's like, there's also like, this has to be a safe place for you type of a thing. You talked to me about the Dwight Howard thing and his son. Like there's like a lot of, I'm not gonna say, well, yes, I am. I'm gonna say it. My homegirl, Kiki, she was, she should be free to express, and it should be a safe place for Black women to, express themselves. Like the whole endeavor is for people to be protected, to protect their peace, and for them to be safe. How does that connect to? Weigh in on how it connects to purpose, or just your thoughts on the idea of protect your peace.
Yeah, I think for me, probably the big issue up front is when somebody openly negotiates their peace, or they falsify a threat so that they could gain stride in whatever purpose they had in their mind. Or if you look at the Smollett scenario, when he had went through that whole thing and falsified the attack, and he was in his career, and it cost him so much to make that decision that was very vulnerable. We were very vulnerable as a society, as a people, as a country, and he took advantage of that. Just like recently, the lady in Alabama, Carly, did as well. And so you see these public things that have the nation in an uproar, and that have people advocating, and people that are truly called to their purpose and like flowing in the thing that they're supposed to be defending. And other people are using it as a platform to expand whatever, that momentary purpose was in their mind that they were trying to accomplish. And I think that when it's threatened, it's serious. But when somebody is now trying to orchestrate a threat to their advantage, then that's where it becomes a problem. So I think that, orchestrating a threat, propagating, of something that is attacking you, and creating these scenarios so that it can become the platform that you stand on. I mean, that to me is something that's shaky. It's not steady. It won't be consistent. You won't be able to do that long term, and it always comes out. So I think in those scenarios where people are talking about defending peace, you have to be really careful of what you're standing on when you're doing it. And I would also say that when we're talking about peace, the one thing that Mother Teresa said that comes up for me, she says people invite her to rally, who had invited her to rallies all the time. And she said, oh, they know that she's for peace. And what happened was people would invite her to these anti-war, anti this, anti that. And she says, well, I'm not going to go to that because that promotes the very thing that you say that I'm for. She says, well, invite me to a peace rally and I'll come. But if you're if you're doing an anti-war, you are just actually like exemplifying the thing that you say that I stand against. So I love the idea of what it means to like lean in what that cause or what your purpose is, but don't do it at the effort of propagating the actual, antithesis, the other side of it. And so being really cautious of that when you're on the way to protecting it.
Yeah, I think for me, the whole the way that we've gotten to this whole like is it a safe space or is it safe? Like all those things are important. Protection is important, but when it's used as leverage, like what you were saying, to just get what you want or to get people off of you, right? Oh, I don't feel safe. But do you really not feel safe, or do you don't want, or is it that you don't want to be agitated, or you don't want to be challenged, or you don't want to be held accountable? That's when I have an issue with, you know what I'm saying? Like you have to. We're all, everybody. It seems that there are so many. I don't want to say everybody, but it seems as though this thing is moving throughout our culture where people are trying to prove how much space, everybody's competing to see how much space they can give everybody in their lives. Yeah. You can do anything you want, and we have no roles, no boundaries, no anything. And that's what we're pushing towards. And so now you have parents who are being celebrated for allowing their children to make life-altering decisions at a stage when their brains literally are not equipped to make life-altering decisions scientifically. But I'm just saying, like, at 9 years old, how do you make a decision that is literally going to impact you for the rest of your life, or 10 years old, or 11 years? You know what I'm saying? Like, you literally don't know. And as a parent, that's frightening for me, because what it means at the end of the day is, what am I for then? If I'm not for some type of boundary setting, then what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? And so my wife is in HR, and she said that she had an employee come to her, probably Gen Y, Gen Z, that said they left work and didn't come back for 3 weeks. No answer, no nothing. And they came back to work 3 weeks later expecting that the job will still be there. And she said, I'm sorry, what are you doing? And the employee literally said, oh, I was in a bad space, but I'm better now. And thought that they were going to get back into the seat because they were in a bad space. And that's what I'm saying. There is a level of entitlement that comes with the phrases of safety and protecting your peace now, that literally pushes you into a space where you just don't have to do what you want, or whatever you don't want to do. And that, to me, and purpose, when they collide, you don't reach purpose. Purpose is violent. The journey to purpose is not an easy road. And it's like, I'm trying to figure out why people feel like I can reach purpose and it's going to be easy.
Well, I mean, the funny thing, and I'm not going to get too far into this because, you know, they're going to be hitting me up in my DMs, but isn't it interesting? We talk about stuff like peace and safety, right? So if we just thinking on a very practical level,
yeah,
America is fairly safe. Fairly. Would you agree with that? I'm not saying completely.
Contextually,
yeah, right?
Yeah.
Fairly safe. I went to Israel, right? When I went to Israel, man, never forget it. This connects. They take me to this top of this mountain, and we get to the top of the mountain, and the guide, he says to us, when we can see Libya on one side, I think, and Syria on the other. And he says, like right now, presently, while we're looking, he goes, there are guns pointed at Israel from both sides, is what he said, right? And I thought to myself, what am I doing here? And then also I thought to myself, why does he seem so peaceful about it? But he had the utmost confidence in the support that Israel gets, because on some level, the community with Israel, right? The nations with Israel are stronger than the ones that's pointing guns at them. So on some level, although they got guns pointed, they won't shoot because they know if they do, there's a whole nother thing coming. So on some level, peace is war. Like you don't have, America is safe because people know. So literally, if a country attacks us, it's literally the end of the world. Think about it. The world is over because we hit a red button and it's done. So somewhere in this whole, you know, whether you agree or not, right? Mm-hmm. There's a red button that creates peace. So then it begs the question, like you just said, like you said, purpose is violent, right? Gene always says transformation is violent, right? Yeah. So like whenever you really want to go for purpose, it begs the question now on what we're talking about, like what is peace And then what is safety? And then who's defining these things? Because I feel like we all are operating from different definitions. Sometimes I'll be in IG, I'll be like, wow, I look at TMZ, and I'm like, what's happening? Like, what's happening with the world, right? Yeah. And then somehow, in the freedom of others, if you don't agree with them, then your disagreement is now unsafe, which then takes away your right to disagree.
Absolutely.
So now you don't have any peace because you're forced. So it's not really, like, to your point, are people really reaching for peace? Or are they just reaching for like a pseudo agreement or a dominance in thought?
Yeah. Yeah. And that it's you were talking about, when you were saying that, it brought to mind Dwight Howard and his son. He was training his son, and the clip went viral, and his son was crying like, "Dad, I can't do this. I can't do it anymore." Right. And I immediately went to the comments, as we always do when we know, you know what I mean? I was like, oh, I can't wait to get to the comments. So I'm reading the comments, and it was split. There were people saying, how dare you treat your son this way? And, he's, safety and all that kind of stuff. And then there was another group of people that were saying, wait a minute. Like, he's instilling in his son courage, and he's instilling in his son, like, this world is not going to be easy. And if you want to be great, this is what greatness requires. And we're still wrestling with this idea of greatness and ease. Like, our culture has an issue now with work. You know what I'm saying? Like, everything is supposed to come easy, and everything is, I'm gonna have 15 million followers as soon as I drop this post. It's like we've taken the viral phenomenon and applied it to life. You know what I mean? Like, oh, I'm about to go viral. Well, how do you figure that? Because you've literally done no work. Oh, all it's gonna take is one conversation. All it's gonna take is one interview. All it's gonna take is one. Like, where is that coming from? And then when you have somebody that's instilling in their child hard work, and you see a child crying because they're working hard, then all of a sudden that parent is not safe. As if tears is an indication that you have now crossed the you know what I'm saying? Like the planes of safety, like that kind of stuff. Just and I think that's where the entitlement comes from, where it's like, I'm just owed this. And I tell people all day long, when my son was younger, I hated participation awards. I hated them. Because for him, they lose and he leaving with the same thing that his medal was almost as big as the winner's was. That's the mentality that people have. Well, I showed up.
Why do you get awarded for showing up?
That's not a thing.
That is not a thing.
That's not a thing for winners.
No, it's not. It's not.
You see what I'm saying? And that was the difference. I'll never forget Kobe Bryant saying, they were like, how did you separate yourself from other basketball players? And he was like, oh, the basketball players in my generation, I realized a lot of them just wanted to get to the NBA. Yeah. Once they got there, they were done working. Yeah. I just kept working because my goal wasn't just to make it. My goal was to be the greatest.
I mean, honestly, they proved to themselves that they could make it, and then that was satisfied, and they were done.
That was it. And the work that he put in. So like this whole thing with safety, I think okay, what if we ask the question this way? How can the idea of peace help your purpose? How can peace hurt your purpose? How can being safe help your purpose? How can it hurt your purpose?
No, I was going to say, to me, the differentiating factor is, honestly, in listening to all this, it's delusion. Yeah. That's really, to me, the big difference is like when you get to a place where you're just really delusional and you have a construct in your mind, that you have definitions in your mind, and you're basing all of it on something that you've reckoned and reasoned with yourself. And it's not based on truth. It's not based on the process of what it takes. If you feel like, oh, I'm going to do this one thing and go viral, and then I'm going to be rich, and that's all it's going to take. And I'm not going to need work. I'm not going to need consistency. I'm not going to need commitment. I'm not going to need those other things because so-and-so did it or so-and-so made it look that way. I feel like the generation and the culture is very much about what it looks like versus what it is.
Yeah, that's true. They working hard, Doc.
Bro,
they working hard.
I love the etymology dictionary, right? So all right, this is not so obvious, right? But okay, so look, safety in etymology dictionary, the root of the word means whole or well kept. So people are not going out, like to your point, I want to feel whole and well kept. That's not and then I looked at the peace one, right? The peace one is even more, the root word for peace means to fasten. So if you're fastening something, that means you're creating a boundary for it. So you don't have peace unless the etymology, not me. This ain't even the Bible, Doc. This is this is the etymology. You don't have peace if it's not fastened. Like literally, the whole concept is in order for something not to move everywhere, it has to be constrained.
Constrained.
Yeah.
Well, I felt that.
Tap your neighbor.
No, I mean it's true. I mean it's the boundaries conversation, right? In the famous book with Henry Cloud, and he talks about this idea that says, okay, there's a school, it's at a highway, and every day there's no boundary, and every day the kids go out to play during the break, and the teachers and everyone is outside, and they are yelling at all the kids, stay close to the building because they don't want them to be in danger. So they're every day and day out. The principal goes out. The teachers are trying to create the pseudo boundary. They're blowing whistles for the kids to stay close. One day they decide they're going to build a fence on their boundary, and the fence goes all the way up to the street. But the difference is now when the kids are released, they can play through that entire span. The boundary lets you know the realm to which you can process. It lets you know the extent to which you can move. It gives you the freedom now to like expand and develop and flow in this area that's now safe.
Yeah.
And so now that freedom allowed them more space to play, more area to go and run, and it allowed for less authority to be there because now they weren't worried they were going to go and get hit in the highway. But I think in our own lives, the reality is when somebody begins to talk about building a wall, we think that we think that now they're trying to keep us in. We think that they're trying to destroy our limits. We think that they're trying to impede our growth, when in reality, it's giving us a framework, a perimeter of saying, this is the safe space for you now. But the reality is when you grow, maybe you go outside of that, and then there's a larger dimension or area, but we never give ourselves space because we're too busy looking at the wall and not considering the space that we have to execute whatever we've been given.
Yeah, I think that for me goes to the question that I was asking, when is peace useful? When is it an instrument for purpose? It's an instrument for purpose when I'm able to create, like, what is this space for, right? And then I can pour all of my intent, all of my resources into this space versus protecting my peace, which is when is peace something that hurts my purpose? It hurts my purpose when I'm looking to not be challenged.
Yeah, I mean, bro.
You know what I'm saying? Like
100%.
I'm not at peace when you hold me accountable. I'm not that's not peace when you call me and say, well, what's going on, Ray? Where you at? Like, I don't feel at peace, right? But at the end of the day, it does promote peace or give me peace when I know I have people around me who will keep me in my yard, right? And not wandering all over the place. So it doesn't feel good initially. And that's the other thing. When you serve your emotions, it like literally, and your emotions are all over the place. So there's literally no constraint because how you feel is how you determine whether you're at peace or not.
Which is dangerous because, like, the scripture says this way, it says, without a vision, people cast off restraint.
Yeah.
Right? Which I feel like this is where the culture is like leaning towards. I don't want anybody to tell me anything, but you also see like the mitigation or the destroying of vision. People have no constraint. So like vision is starting to get lost because every vision now requires.
Yes, that's the key.
Every vision requires some type of boundary. My thought is you don't have freedom if you don't have boundary. You don't. You don't have real freedom if you don't have boundary. The NBA, during the finals, the coaches tell their players during the finals, hey bros, you know, we on, so I'm gonna keep it PG. Keep your testosterone levels up. like, like, don't eat these foods because it's going to have an adverse effect on your performance. And if your vision is to win a championship, that comes with these things, right? You just talked about Kobe. Kobe literally sat down and scientifically figured out how to be the best. Oh, everybody in this generation, they work out twice a day. That is the average time that people train.
For professionals.
For a professional.
Yeah.
Twice a day. He says, I'm going to do 4 times a day. He said, and over time, I knew I would pass him because the math don't lie. If I'm doing twice as much as you, I would be twice as good as you, right? People don't want the pressure that comes with purpose.
What is that? What is the thing with pressure?
Comes with it.
But have we, I've been asking this question to other parents, honestly seeking an answer. Have we created this? Where like this generation, and I think us included, where we have overcorrected to a space where nobody wants pressure.
Let me tell you, bro, like last night, this happened to me last night, driving. My son says, we were talking about music, and, you know, I'm not gonna put him on blast on camera, but like, he listens to music, bro, that me, you, I don't even think Angel could have listened to. Angel, you know, she drank, but I don't know what's happening. But like literally, I don't even know, like some of the stuff my son listens to, bro, is so outlandish. And he asked me a question while we were driving last night that just mesmerized me. He said, Dad, I got a question. He said, well, Grandpa would have never let me even process this. He says, do you let me process this because he didn't let you process? And while I was driving, I was like, dang. Another time, bro, he told me straight out, I was getting on his case about just, you know, the way he approaches his homework in life and whatever. And we got into an intense moment of conversation. And he said something to me, bro, that he said this when he was younger. He's 16 now. He was like 13 when he said 14. He said, Dad, like, the lights never went off. I always had water. So I don't even know what you're talking about. His whole point was, you were produced on some level by levels of poverty that make you have the drive you got. That's not the world you created for me. That was kind of a slap in the face. Right. To your point, like, did we create this like non-pressure, no work, no push towards excellence? Did we create this thing of like no boundary? Today I don't feel like it today.
Even triggers. Oh, I'm triggered. Like I get that, but
and what else?
And what else? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you're tricked, does that mean we all have to stop now because you're tricked? Like, what does that actually mean? And the problem that I have is that we're watching people who fight through it, and we're wondering why we don't get to where they are. Not even in competition, but there's a small percentage of people who are not living like that. And they're the ones that everybody else is working for. You see what I'm saying? And so we're trying to figure out why is it that I can't get to this space that I see in my mind? And my question would be, well, how much peace are you going for? Like, how much are you protecting? Because we always get into what we won't do or what we don't want to do or what we're protecting ourselves from. And what would happen if you just allowed yourself to be all in? Because that's really what it is. At the end of the day, it's people afraid to be all in because of the disappointment of if I put myself all in it and it doesn't happen for me. So I'm measured in my whole life. My entire life is a measurement of how much of my heart I put into a thing without putting myself in a position to be hurt. So the moment I feel like my heart is going too far into it, I got to protect my peace.
Which is crazy,
or
man.
I got to be safe.
Bro,
but you're protecting yourself from yourself.
And bro, what you just said is so crazy. You made me think about this. So vision now and purpose now has become you just saying what you want to be, but not ever doing it. As long as I say it on IG, then I'm good. It's like there's no like actualization. It's never gonna happen. I have become hypnotized with the dream of it. Like, so this whole culture is like caught up in the dream of it, and that's enough. Like, people ain't tripping on like actually getting there.
The first time I saw a show done, it was a live show. It's a recorded show, but like a sitcom. I actually went to see one recorded and to look at all the props and all the stuff. I'm like, wait a minute, that's just a wall? That's not a house? Like, it destroys the myth and the fantasy of the show when you actually see the truth of how it's done. And I think a lot of people, it's not safe to see the truth of how it's done. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, when you pull it back and you actually see, like, this is how it's actually done, and it's not done in the half an hour that you watch it. It actually takes 100 hours to put on a 30-minute show. But you just want to be an actor. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. But it's even more than like you said, the time that it takes, but even the amount of resources or other people. I think part of the delusion is kind of this aspect that in this season or in this space in the culture, there's like no one is willing to pull behind the curtain. Nobody wants to go behind the veil. No one's willing to say, let me go backstage in my own life and see all the things that it takes to make this show or make this life or make this journey or cause this purpose to go. When you were talking earlier, one of the quotes that came to mind, one of my favorites, it talks about hard times create strong, right? Hard times create strength, right? And then the strength creates good times, right? So you have people that are going through their life and they're like, okay, things are hard. The lights were cut off. I had to walk. You know what I mean? My shoes had holes, all the stuff. And you're like, and from it, you're going to be strong. From it, your kids are going to be strong because you're like, look, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to do it. And then now all of a sudden you have this strength in your life and then it's going to produce good times. Why? Because you never want your kids to go through it. I'm going to fight tooth and nail to make sure you never have lights turned off. You always have food. You always have the best. You always have the shoes. You always have the stuff. Yeah. And then all of a sudden that generation now, we get surprised when it was so easy or so good for them that in reality what it produced was weakness. And then an entire generation of weakness then goes back to producing what? Hard times because they can't sustain it. I deal with it all the time in my business because you look at like generations of business or generations of wealth. It's the same thing. Yeah. You have wealth in a generation. If you don't instill those practical pieces, if you don't teach them those things, they're not going to be sound when it comes to being fiduciaries or being responsible or know what to do. They're going to go crazy. They're going to eat the seed. They're going to spend all the stuff. And then now all of a sudden that generation wealth, that wealth that you build cannot sustain past the generation that they can eat. So now it's hard for their children. Then it becomes hard for that generation. And then in the toughness and in the grittiness, they figure it out and produce strength. Why do we have to cycle that way? Why can't we go from strength to strength? Why can't we go from generational wealth to generational? Why can't we go from purpose and passion to producing kids with purpose and passion? And it just continues to expand.
I know Bill Gates got a heart. I think I read something that said, he said, hey, I ain't giving my kids nothing. Almost to create the hard times so that they can get where they need to get. I also thought about this too, like, what do you, for the people who are creating the wall and the boundaries and saying, hey, I stand for this. An interesting culture like almost goes, yeah, no. Like I don't want that image per se, right? So like, I think too, it becomes difficult setting those boundaries, right, in this culture. Because if you set boundaries, right, then the culture also, you run the risk of being rejected. Toby, the rapper, right, literally says, I'm going to create a new image of rap videos, same quality, but you're gonna see my wife and you're gonna see my children. And you're gonna see it in everything. Every time you see me, you're gonna see my wife and you're gonna see my children. But he paid a price for that. Some people were like, yeah, great. But some cultures like, yeah, I was watching some interview or something where he was talking about the Transformer movie and he said, hey, look, I told them, man, I appreciate this opportunity. can I bring my kids? And I was like, what a question. Like, how many people would negate the boundary they set for themselves? How many people take the compromise like, hey, I see you want to get to the next level. I'll give you the next level if you do this. Dave Chappelle is a prime example of a person resistant to all the. I mean, it's one thing to turn down a couple of dollars,
50 mil?
but you turn down $50 million.
But that's the thing. It's like, what are you willing to negotiate in the what matters most in your life?
Like, but this is so okay. Wrapping up. How do you what do we tell people with the whole conversation of purpose and peace, purpose and safety, right? Where's the grounding? What's not so obvious in this conversation, right? That everybody is having. Like if you, Ray, were to tell somebody that's going for purpose anything in relation to peace and safety, what would you tell them? Something practical.
I would tell them to always be aware. For me, it always goes back to awareness. Am I really not safe, or do I just not want to be accountable? Like, you have to sit in that space, because if you don't have purpose and accountability go hand in hand. And if you don't have it, you won't get there. Like, that's how it works. And so when I'm getting agitated, I ask myself, am I agitated because they're wrong or they're attacking me? Because it's going to feel like that if I don't sit in it for a second. Am I agitated because I feel like they're attacking me and they're right? You see what I'm saying? If that's the case, like, no, if I just take this off of me for a second and not take it personally, they're absolutely right. That's accountability. If I'm being attacked and there is no basis of anything, and it's not out of love, and it's not because, these are people that have committed themselves to walking with me to purpose, then I can make that decision. And I do have to protect my peace, because I don't want drama. I don't want you talking crazy. I don't like people talking negative around me. That's how I protect my peace. But if you looking at me because I was late to a meeting, that's not me. Blocking you is not protection of my peace. I was late. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying. So you got to own when protecting your peace has drifted into trying to avoid accountability, and call yourself on it, and then submit to whoever that was and be honest and tell the truth. You know what I mean? That's one of the biggest ways for me.
Yeah, that's good. I would say that in this journey of purpose, there's going to be a lot of threats and obstacles and things that are going to come against your peace and your safety. Yeah. My stance for you today is that you don't construct your own. Your threats and things that are coming up against you, they don't need your help on this journey of purpose. So along the way, make sure that it's not a construct you've made up. Make sure that it's not something that's in your own mind. Make sure that it's not something that you're fabricating so that it could push or get you to like this next spot, but it's not sustainable because it's not real. And eventually that will come to light. So just make sure that along the way, threats and obstacles and things are going to come that are going to attack it, but be mindful and conscious that it's not a fabrication of your own doing. You're going to have enough obstacles on its own.
I love it.
Yeah.
I would say a couple things. One, make sure that you actually process and define safety and peace, which correlates to what you guys are saying. Like we read a dictionary that says safety is connected to wholeness. Peace is when you are fastened. You make sure that in your vision, there is some type of boundaries that you set that's connected to the vision that you want. If you don't have boundaries for the vision that you want, your time will be taken up, your emotions will be taken up. You literally, these people don't realize, if you have a vision that is specific, it's going to create the boundaries, and it's going to create your community, right? So I would say make sure you're clear on the vision, right? So that, you can be clear on these definitions of peace and safety. That's one. Two, I would say in the vision continuum, we always talk about perception versus perspective, right? And to what you said, I have to change. I have to constantly be changing my mindset and my perception of things. But I got to process, where does perception come from? Because all of us have trash that we pick up along the way with life that skews the way we see things, because we don't see with our eyes, we see with our mind. So what have you fed your mind, right? That makes you look at things. And sometimes the way we look at things, we're delusional because we got to go first, get the trash in our minds. Where'd you come from? What was the environment? How did it affect you? Were there some words that affected the way you show up, right? Lastly, I would say commit to excellence. If you, Toby, committed to excellence, if you commit to excellence, then it will create a platform where people will be forced to acknowledge your boundaries. You want people to acknowledge your boundaries? Make sure you're excellent. Don't be whack. Like if you're a singer, don't be a whack singer. If you writing books, make sure your book ain't whack. Like don't be whack. There's so many people talking about I do this, I do that. You're not even an expert. Like be an expert so people care about your boundaries. Nobody cares about your boundaries if you whack. Like nobody cares about what you stand for if you whack. Don't be whack. Like I know that sounds crazy, but it's the truth. Like there's a lot of whack people out here in these streets, just quality just bad. Like you got a business, your product is whack. And you got to be willing to the boundary. You got to invest in your products. I'm learning that. Like no money, no elevation. No. Are you willing to put your own hard-earned money, the stuff that you work for, into it? Or are you always looking for something for free? Like free is only going to get you so far. I got this free, and it's interesting. We want people to pay for stuff that we never pay for. So I want to receive something for a product that I've never given, right? These are just some small little, I know I got real passionate, right? I felt that. Like,
Yeah,
almost
you
like,
did. You got
almost like it was talking about drinks.
Yeah.
I
It was
felt,
close.
I felt it came out. Let me calm down. Look, you hear everything we're saying. I want to personally invite you to our Evolve training. Our Evolve training puts you in a position to know what the vision continuum is, because that's where it all starts. What is your purpose? Why are you here? What is my vision? If you don't know what that is, it's very difficult then to set boundaries and do all the stuff we've been talking about. Come through, go to the website, information is there. Episode 4, down, we killing the game. 4 down, we killing the game. Don't forget, the stuff we talked about, not so obvious, no pun intended. Peace.